Hello and welcome to the I-League Season 2 Southeast Asian Qualifiers here on HeflaTV 2. I'm Grandis V, and I'm going to be casting here a best of 3 between MVP.Phoenix and Arcanys Gaming. As far as both of these teams are concerned, I don't get the pleasure of casting them very often, but this should be a really good game. I have watched them a handful of times, so I don't really have the best of knowledge about their individual play, but maybe Arcanys slightly favored, maybe Phoenix slightly favored, but this should be a pretty high-level game and very fun to watch. Either way, we do have a draft ahead of us. We're going to start things off for Arcanys with a Tidehunter first pick. No big surprises there, and eventual Spirit first pick for MVP.Phoenix. They'll fold things up with the Jakiro for them, already a decent amount of pushing power coming out from both of these heroes. Between the Vengeance Aura and the Liquid Fire, they can take structures very early and often. And have a decent amount of lockdown between them, definitely a solid opener. And if MVP.Phoenix are so inclined to ranged heroes, this could be a decent Draw Ranger game if they pick up the Visage and Jiro come the second stage. Arcanys really haven't shown anything off. With this Tidehunter first pick, it's a pretty standard hero all around that you can't really complain much about. Ravage is always going to be a really good spell to have at your disposal. Gush is some nice utility there. You can always farm those Ancients, even if you have a bad laning stage. So Tidehunter, really can't go wrong with that hero pretty much ever. I quite like it. For now, Arcanys are taking their time with the second pick, and rightfully so. There is still plenty of really good heroes left in the pool, especially after we see Slark being banned out in the first stage. Although he's a really good hero, don't get me wrong. It's just going to leave effectively every support under the sun available for both of these teams. Skywrath Mage and Ogre Magi are there. If Arcanys want either one of them, I think Ogre is probably the safer of the two, or at least better of the two. I quite like me some Ogre Magi, but hopefully they're going to bring something interesting to the table. I do like it when teams try to experiment a bit, when it comes to the draft especially. So, it is going to be the Ogre, so no big surprises. There's really not much else to talk about. Yeah, pretty much. Right now, the Ogre Magi is going to be offering them some nice CC between the Fire Blast as well as the Ignite. You can play really aggressive early on, or you can just bully out the offlaner. Just Fire Blast him, smack him, especially if you start with boots first. That club definitely can hurt quite a bit. Yeah, I don't think that either team are going to be upset with what they've gotten in this first stage of the picks. They both have some really solid ways to start out the game, but then again, they don't really show anything as to what their actual direction is going to be. Arcanys could go for a really heavy investment into the mid-game team fight, just work around this Ravage and get this huge wombo combo going. Or they could go incredibly aggressive early on, fall back on the Tidehunter Ravage to win those team fights into pushing towers, working off the Ogre Magi and his roaming combination. Or you could take this incredibly late. Ravage never really falls off, even when BKBs are involved. It might make the timing for the Ravage a little bit better, but it's still, or a little bit worse. But it's still going to be an amazing spell at your disposal. And they could also rely on Fire Blast, or not Fire Blast, excuse me, Blood Blast from the Ogre Magi, which would be really nice for them. Ember of Spirit and Witch Doctor going to be the next couple of bans. And they're pretty good ones at that. Even though there's some decent lockdown on Arcanys, it's not instant, and it's not that reliable when it comes to taking down the Ember of Spirit between these first two picks. I definitely can't understand them banning that out. Batrider going to be the secondary ban coming out from Arcanys. Centaur's available in the pool, and as far as offlaners are concerned, that's probably the one on MVP.Phoenix's mind, especially if that is a support Jakiro. Excuse me, it's going to be a Skywrath Mage ban out coming in from them. And it's a pretty good one. Would have comboed decently well with the Ogre Magi. Ancient Steel amplifying the Fire Blast is quite a dirty combination. And right now it's MVP.Phoenix's turn to look to flavor this draft one way or another. It's going to be a solo cast today, which is unfortunate, but I won't be able to read the chat as much as I might like to. So yeah, we'll just have to see.
10 seconds to go.
Right now, 10 seconds left on the proper pick time for MVP.Phoenix as they wait for their next choice. If they want to go for a Draw Ranger, this is an okay game to go for it, but Arcanys still have plenty of picks to remedy that. And picking up a Phantom Assassin with Bloodlust backup, it would be very risky for them to do so, and I doubt it, although it is an option that they could go for. Lycanthrope also there if they really want to hammer down these towers between Liquid Fire as well as the or coming out from the Vengeful Spirit and Lycanthrope could be a pretty insane pushing combination if MVP.Phoenix want to go aggressive early on, but instead it's going to be a Zeus. MVP.Phoenix are going to go aggressive, but in a different fashion altogether. Once Zeus gets that maxed out Lightning Bolt, as well as the Thunder God's Wrath up and running, can be a very potent nuking power. Elder Titan has yet to be picked up or banned on either side, and it feels unlikely that our Arcanys are going to be able to go for it, since they already have the Tidehunter towards the off lane, and Overmagi is one of their supports. That would leave them with really crowded lanes when it comes to just how many melee heroes that they have. So MVP.Phoenix, if they want it, they'll have that at their disposal.
5 seconds.
Still a lot of lane flexibility coming up from MVP.Phoenix. There's no clear option as to what they really want to go for. Arcanys is taking their time with this next pickup for themselves. As far as heroes that are good up against Zeus, really most of them rely on items to really get up that extra bulk, whether it's in the form of a pipe or a BKB. And those are going to be necessary pickups for them. Tidehunter could be the one to pick up the pipe for their side. Let me just check that they're not actually disconnected. They are in this game and just taking their time.
10 seconds.
Reserve time ticking down. It's going to be a Wraith King for them. Very interesting. Not sure if I like this choice at all for Arcanys Gaming. It's a third melee hero for them, and honestly, he's not going to be offering too much. A nice blinking initiator, and if MVP.Phoenix do blow all of their spells, killing the Wraith King the second time might be a little bit difficult, especially if they're low on mana on the Zeus. But still can't say that I'm the biggest of fans for this Wraith King pickup. MVP.Phoenix, I'd love to see them pick up something along the lines of a Timbersaw, even though it would leave them decently locked down light, relying very heavily on the Magic Missile and Ice Path of the Jakiro. That would, I don't know, just be a ridiculous amount of burst damage that they could pump into the enemy team.
Reserve time.
Right now, mid-Zeus, still have yet to see who he's going to be laning against, and if it's a very poor matchup for the Zeus, they always have that ability to throw him in as a support. Kind of functions like a Skywrath Mage, in the fact that he is going to be just zoning out the offlaner as much as he can, throw Thunderbolts, throw Arc Lightnings here and there. And it is a pretty decent way to lane him. The times that I've seen support Zeus, if your positioning is good and you're able to get up to level 7 or so at a decent timing, can be ridiculous. But MVP.Phoenix, they're going to change gears entirely in the anti-mage for them. And it's a really good pick. Up against the Wraith King, his ultimate's not going to be reliable anymore, especially once a Manta Cell comes out for this anti-mage, which it very well should. The mana is just going to be drained out of Wraith King like that. There's really nothing you can do about it, and that might force Arcanys to shy away from running this Wraith King as a core. Leaving them with double melee supports would be really awkward, but then again, if you have all of this farm on a core Wraith King, you really need Reincarnation to actually make that hero worthwhile running, because outside of the built-in crit and the lifesteal, he's actually a pretty poor carry. Enigma's going to be picked up for Arcanys Gaming, and it is going to be a farming Wraith King after all. They have a lot of big teamfight ultimates, but it's going to take quite a bit of farm for them to be able to force the fights on the side of MVP.Phoenix. I fear that they're just not able to get those Blink Daggers up fast enough, and that they're not able to get those kills after those Blink Dagger picks, and even worse than that, pushing into the towers. They don't really have anything great, except for Eidolons from the Enigma. Yeah, not a huge fan of Arcanys Gaming, especially since MVP.Phoenix just have so many ways, even through BKB, to cancel a channeling of the Black Hole. Vengeful Spirit, quite possibly one of the best, if not the best, hero at stopping Black Hole channeling, especially once you get higher levels up into the swap. Level 1 swap can get a little janky, but once you have level 11 and level 16, that's just not a reliable way to follow up fights unless Venge is stuck inside the Black Hole. And then again, how do Arcanys put pressure on this anti-mage early, and how do they stop a farmed anti-mage? AM, this game isn't going to be pressured that much at all. If it is just a Tidehunter in the offlane, anti-mage can handle that lane 1v1 very effectively. And I don't really see how Arcanys are going to be able to do this. Phantom Assassin going to be the ban coming out from MVP.Phoenix. They could completely surprise me and just be extremely lucky with the Ogre, get those Blink Daggers up fast and put the pressure on them, but it does force Arcanys into a particular style of play. They're very tied down to these ultimate cooldowns of the Black Hole and the Ravage, as well as whenever they get those Blink Daggers, so let's see what they're going to be able to do with this. For MVP.Phoenix, we have still yet to see how they're actually going to lane these heroes, so we don't actually know what the real plan is here.
Reserve time.
But I think it's safe to assume that it is a safe lane anti-mage. Mid Zeus, maybe an off-lane Jakiro, maybe they're picking up a support, maybe they're picking up an off-laner. Right now, I think a Centaur would be pretty nice for them, but instead they go for a Juggernaut. Still very ambiguous lanes, but their pushing power is very immense. If you scratch out the Zeus and the anti-mage, oh my goodness, I couldn't be happier with these last two picks. We're going to have Heinrich Meepo, and on the Arcanys side, and it should be a pleasure to watch. As far as heroes that you can't count out of game, Meepo is pretty high on top of my list, and might just be the X factor that Arcanys need to take out this win, and put pressure onto that anti-mage. You can't blink while you're netted down. Not sure exactly what was going on with that transition video. Looks like it was pretty poorly messed up. Either way, hopefully that's not too bad on stream, and hopefully everything's going through properly. Thanks for joining us here in the I-League Season 2 Southeast Asian Qualifiers. We are progressing nicely throughout this tournament. And I'm not exactly sure how many games are actually going on. I think there's just 2 series each day. When that ends, I don't know, and hopefully it doesn't end for quite some time. Always a pleasure to be able to watch these teams as we load into the game. Let me go ahead and make sure everything's going okay on behind the scenes.
Everybody get set.
We should be all good. GLHF has come out from both sides. And we'll go ahead and introduce the Radiant side. We're going to have Boombox playing on that jungling Enigma. Ogre Magi going to be played by Fried Butterflies. The Meepo heading towards the mid lane, going to be played by Heinrich. And on the safe lane farming role, we are going to have Wraith King played by Mighty Savior. Towards the alpha lane, Tidehunter played by Bach. And on the Dire side, we are going to have MVP.Phoenix. March playing on the Zeus Anti-Mage by QO. Jakiro played by 4Ev. Raisin on the Juggernaut. And Heen on the Vengeful Spirit. Well, that was interesting. It looks like MVP looking for a level 1 engagement. Are they going to be able to find it? And will it be that great either way? Jakiro is currently laughing his little tails off. And, well, they are looking for a fight. Their level 1... fight is pretty decent. If they're able to connect with the Magic Missile and just run them down with the Blade Fury, it is quite a lot of damage, but I'm not sure they need to drop all 5 heroes into this jungle, but it is definitely going to secure them control over the woods that Enigma would love to be farming. Currently going to be blocking 2 of his camps. Large camp taken out by that word, whether or not that's D-word's another story, and then they take out the small pole camp as well. Even more hate to the Enigma as they block his large camp. Currently, Enigma's jungle has 2 camps available, and that's just not a happy place if your name is Enigma. 0-minute rune going to be set on by Reason is going to be an invis for him, and up top Tidehunter going to get the bounty rune. He needs 1 attack from the anti-mage, but that's not going to bother him much at all. For now, we're going to see anti-mage solo in the top lane versus the Tidehunter, and it's definitely something you can do. As far as melee matchups, the Tidehunter does not want to be in. Anti-mage pretty much tops the list. Just get 1 point into that mana break, and then you smack him down to oblivion. It's not going to be a fun time at all if your name is Tidehunter. Down the bottom lane, aggressive tri-lane coming out from MVP is pretty darn strong. If they are able to connect with the Magic Missile with an Invis rune on the Venge and Mighty Savior, none the wiser. They'll open up onto him pretty soon. Body blocks come out immediately. Heen with that Magic Missile not leveled up, they're actually going to pull back. Mighty Savior is quite tanky, and they might have been able to save him, but honestly I think it's worth going for that Magic Missile. They should be running with plenty of clarities between them. Actually, no, Vengeful Spirit's not sitting on any at all, so maybe just wanting to reserve that mana for a better opening, but even without them doing anything, Mighty Savior is completely zoned off the creep wave, not able to get anything. Although outside of... oh my goodness, what's going on with my last hits and denies? Interesting. Okay, that's much better. Yeah, I was very interested to see that all of the Radiant heroes were on the top of that list. Just didn't feel right. Jakiro's farming pretty freely. Reason's throwing his sword up in the air for reasons that nobody really knows. They are able to get the D-word onto the large camp. It's a pretty standard word to place right about here. If they were able to invade even deeper and place it like on that spot, maybe they would be able to stop him, but in mid, they're going to jump onto the Zeus. That's going to be our first spot as soon as the Meepo ticks his level 3, and it's probably a move that I should have been expecting. As far as killing potential, that's probably one of the highest spots. Zeus, not a very high HP hero, and that double poof really does a number. Meepo, his farm is going to be a little bit delayed since he does have an Enigma farming up in the camp that he'd really like to be stacking up for himself, but getting first blood, definitely a great boon for the Meepo. He'll secure himself a regeneration rune that he has picked up on one of his Meepos and send the other one back towards the base. The one going back towards the base is his secondary Meepo, just getting refill on health and HP. As far as the anti-mage versus Tidehunter lane, Tidehunter's actually doing better than I thought he would, but now that we do have mana break up for QO, eventually he'll get that ring of health Bach isn't really going to be able to do much at all. Anchor Smash, although it's not a very high mana spell, it's still high enough to where he won't be able to cast it, since he is sitting on practically no mana at all. So this should be picking up for QO quite soon. Mighty Savior has taken a bit of harass down in the bottom. If ever he comes up to the lane, there is going to be Liquid Fire awaiting him with loving arms. 2 points up in a Dual Breath. Very aggressive start coming out from Forev. They'll put some decent damage on this tower. Tranquil Boots already up for that Jakiro. Enigma spotted out. This could be a kill onto Boombox. They look for the Blade Fury. Boombox is pretty fast as far as heroes are concerned, and Reason it's actually not as fast as I thought he was. He does have that Blade Fury, is probably going to pop it pretty soon. At the very least, they're zoning Boombox out of his jungle, and they use no mana in order to do so, and they'll mop a couple of Eidolons to boot. That's one CS going their way. They'll split, and they might be able to kill off one more. Reason dropping low for this needs to be careful. They do bring in Fried Butterflies, and if they get the stun onto Reason, he is going to fall. The Meepo is also pretty darn close, and could have helped them out. For now, the bottom lane's a complete success for MVP, but mid lane is going pretty much uncontested to the Meepo. There's not much Zeus can do to deny creeps at all against Heinrich, and he'll be able to CS pretty freely, although the harass is really annoying from Arc Lightning. It's not really going to matter much. They need to do something about this Meepo, and honestly, this Venge Jug, although they have a lot of killing potential at those early levels with the Blade Fury and Magic Missile, we have yet to even see them cast those spells, which honestly is pretty darn surprising to me. I would have liked to see them at least attempt something. If you just sit on those spells, it's pretty much worthless. They have dropped a Wave of Terror here and there, but that's about it. This is really where these heroes excel. The Tidehunter is still doing incredibly well. Boombox is dropping low inside the jungle. Looks like he was tanking for a couple of his Eidolons. But he's also picking up a decent amount of farm. Arcanys, this early game's going well for them, especially since the Anti-Mage just gets killed by the Meepo, my goodness. Dropping low while farming that side camp. Didn't even see it coming. Honestly, probably should have been expecting that since the Ogre Machai was farming up in the jungle, but Anti-Mage, when you're farming up that low, it's just not a happy place to be. And Heinrich, he is prime to really snowball out of control, taking a couple of camps away from the enemy's side. He even completes up the full magic wand up against his Zeus. You can't blame him at all. Will use one of his poofs, farms up that large camp, and potentially looks for the Anti-Mage yet again. He is going to be bottling up his secondary Meepo. He has those 11 magic wand charges onto his first Meepo. They don't have a Ravage or any mana to speak of. They're going to throw a net. First one going to miss. Double poof down the wave. Not much more that they can do here, as QO should be just fine, even if another net was thrown. And good news for MVP, that tier 1 tower down the bottom lane is going to fall very low to the Jakiro and his push coming out from the Liquid Fire, currently only level 2. But it's still going to be enough in order to take it down, but still, this Meepo is really, really looking scary. And even the Tidehunter, he's doing a lot better in lane than I thought he would. He's not putting that much pressure on the Anti-Mage. He's still sitting on a moderate 23 CS, 24 CS now on the AM, but Tidehunter wasn't shut down at all. Even without access to Anchor Smash, Bach was just out CSing the AM, which is honestly surprising to me. He didn't load out with that much regen, and maybe that's why QO is struggling a little bit. The Enigma Eidolon's going to do quite a number to QO up towards top, but the Ring of Health is going to put an end to that. What's going to break MVP out of this slump? I'm not sure. Anti-Mage will be able to blink away, but he's already dropped low enough to where it's not really attractive to go for this kill. They bring in the Jakiro, and they just want to 5-man down, push these lanes as fast as possible, and abuse Liquid Fire to its fullest. Still have yet to see the Zeus be impactful pretty much at all. All that he's really done was give First Blood the way of the Meepo. I haven't even seen his ultimate cast or look for any rotations, and part of that's due to the fact that there really hasn't been any rotations to be found. Speaking of rotations, we have a Juggernaut looking towards mid. The Blade Fury can do quite a lot of work onto Heinrich, and he only has those 2 Meepos. Since he's showing both of them in the lane, they can bring him down very quickly. But the tower push up towards top. They will spot out the Enigma. Anti-Mage getting off that Mana Void is going to be the end of Enigma's life. If we see the jump onto the Meepo, Heinrich dropping low, but not low enough. They get another Thunderbolt, as well as an Arc Lightning. Heinrich going to be able to move towards his side Meepo, and that is going to succeed. Not really a way that they can kill him. He was bottling up, and that ultimate wouldn't have killed him either way. Meepo does start out with a little bit more magic resist than other heroes, so Zeus ultimate isn't going to be that great at killing him off, although don't get me wrong, Zeus's just raw burst potential is more than enough to kill off Meepo later on. We're going to see Zeus actually chase down the Meepo. What was he doing? Huh. Meepo was really, really deep in enemy lines, so it looks like he just wasn't sitting on a TP scroll. Right now, it kind of looks like... Okay, never mind. I'm not even going to bring that up. It was looking like Meepo was going to rush towards the Boots of Trouble, but now picks up the Ogre Club. It is just going to be a pretty standard Aghanim Scepter rush for him. Currently, that's a very important kill for MVP to be picking up, especially on the Zeus. That's a level 8 hero falling, and 2 heroes getting the experience for it. It's gonna be a really big boon for them. Meepo looking for nets in mid, not gonna find them, poofing down the creep wave. He's Thunderbolted now, and with the Juggernaut as well as the Vengeful Spirit, Magic Missile lands into Heinrich, and he can't do anything but watch himself fall. Poof is on cooldown, and he's probably going to drop. They just need a little bit more damage. Bottling up, looking for the net. That lands onto Reason, and now it turns with the other one. Will kill off the Juggernaut once. The secondary Meepo is still sitting at a decent amount of HP and can't find any more. In the meantime, they've lost their anti-mage up towards top to the Mind of Wraith King. That was our first black hole being cast, as well as Arcanys notch themselves 2 kills across the map. Meepo very barely avoiding death. I'm tempted to call that one a bait, but honestly, I'm not sure if we can actually be that kind. It was still very well played by Meepo, don't get me wrong, that was wonderful. 4F is going to eat a Fire Blast under tower. They don't get the Wraith Fire Blast off onto him either, but blink forward, looking for a little bit of mana burn onto Mighty Savior. He throws one of his, Wraith Fire Blast, and now is going to salve up, but only for a minute, as Liquid Fire is going to hit into him. They are going to burn his mana. He's very low, but not low enough to stop him from getting the ulti off. But even dropping that cooldown at this point in the game is very significant. The Wraith King reincarnation at these early levels just has such a long cooldown. It's really easy to work around if you're the enemy team. Meepo is still farming up a storm. His immediate impact isn't going to be felt that much until we see level 10 and then the Aghanim Scepter. That's when Meepo really starts getting those leaps in power. Tier 1 tower up towards top, gonna fall in the favor of MVP. No big surprises there with the Liquid Fire as well, as the Healing Ward to sustain through this. They're going to find themselves a fairly easy tower destruction. And they're going to try to keep on doing this, but even with a tower lead over the enemy team, they're still not looking too great when it comes to the net worth graphs. 1,500 in their favor, and experience vastly in the favor of Arcanys. Although that is a little misleading, since Meepo is just so high level. They're trying to drop a Zeus ultimate, killing off the Enigma on impact, just dropping him way too darn low. Zeus does do a lot of damage, and looks like he was just underestimated a little bit too much. With the health pools on Arcanys, especially the Enigma, you do have to be very careful. They did spot out the Meepo as well. Blink away in mid will keep Kyo safe from the might of Heinrich and his Meepo. 3 points up in the Liquid Fire. They're going to mop up this creep wave and continue on the push. They have Healing Ward cooling down. Now Omni Slash up for Reason. They might be looking for a little bit more. That's Meepo taking his level 10. Now they see the 3 Meepos onto the map. They ping out for Ev, but do they really want to go for this? It looks like MVP are in position to take a fight if they really want to. No mechanism up on Boombox or Blink Dagger on any of their heroes, really. The Wraith King hasn't been picking up that much farm at all. Mighty Savior not really impressing on this quote-unquote core Wraith King. And that's not really his fault, just the lane's not working out for him. Heinrich's going to pick himself up a regeneration rune in the meantime. Currently a one-man gank squad. If he catches a net onto the anti-mage, it might all be over for the AM. As far as the spell block, or spell shield, I should say, levels, it's only 1. That's not to be unexpected, but that's not going to be enough to save you from poof. 720 HP is going to be ripped through like that. And you'll have 3 nets as well, and they're going to go for it. He's able to blink out to the sidelines. Looks like he didn't follow up with the nets in time, or maybe layered them a little too much. Looked pretty well played by the Meepo, actually. Just based on the cooldowns of the nets, purely. Both heroes are going to be able to survive, but Anti-Mage is forced off of the lane. Tier 1 tower up towards top's going to fall, but in return, the Tier 1 tower in mid dropping low. They have the Ravage off of cooldown. They found themselves a Heen, and it looks like he's going to fall. Drops the Thunderbolt before he dies, but he is going to be bashed down by the Wraith King. Now Fire Blast over the sidelines. Black Hole solo onto March. It is going to be the end of Zeus's life, as there's nothing he can do but burn, and he will do so. It's an easy 2-0 for Arcanys, and now they bring in Heinrich. At a full HP, he's almost at that Aghanim Scepter, just 600 gold away, and we're well on our way towards a very fast axe for this Meepo. Getting first blood as well as 2 kills subsequently definitely helps, and now they'll get that Tier 1 tower on top of it. With the Eidolon army going to work, it is going to be pretty easy for them to take this. Yeah, and that's going to be it. Almost tying up our towers. There's still 1 Tier 1 still left in this game, and it's in bottom. Not looking too healthy, not looking too unhealthy, at a pretty moderate amount of HP. There's your Blink Dagger for Bach, and Ravage was not needed for that last fight. Arcanys are primed to look for some pretty scary engagements. Even though AM is farming okay, it's not enough, and honestly, even the Battle Fury isn't going to be an immediate turning point for MVP. As far as heroes that can farm as fast as an AM with Battle Fury, Meepo is pretty high up on that list. Just with the raw amount of units that he has to farm with, and how well he is at pushing out those waves, just with a double poof here and there, and he's going to get that Aghanim Scepter, which really does help your pushing potential, and To top that all off, we have a DD in the bottle of Heinrich. And DD on Meepo, I think it's actually the best hero to have a DD on, bar none. Since he's pretty much all about the base damage. And since he has so many units that benefit from that, if you have your secondary Meepos close to you when you pop that DD, they all get the DD effect. So it's effectively like having, at this point in the game with 3 Meepos, an extra 210 damage, which is pretty darn sick. They found the Wraith King down in the bottom, and Mighty Savior is going to lose his reincarnation, but bring in some support from the sidelines. They have a Blink Ravage. They will get that Blink canceled. He still gets the Ravage off onto 3, although will there be enough damage? Heen and March dropping low, but not low enough. He gets the Omni Slash off, and that's going to be a double kill for Reason. That's coming through. Meepo looking for poofs. Can he even find an angle? However, he's dropping pretty low inside the Midnight Pulse. Everybody else from MVP is also. QO jumping in, dropping Heinrich low with a Thunderbolt, and a couple more auto attacks. It is going to be the end of the Meepo's life. A lot of experience going the way of the enemy team, and Anti-Mage is cleaning house. Magic Missile, Thunderbolt, and this Zeus has gone unanswered throughout this entire fight, as March is a happy Zeus. He's able to dump out his mana pool, and my goodness, it works wonders for them. MVP, that healing word also being pretty crucial. Arcanys just weren't able to do the damage, and just like that, they've taking the lead in this game. All it took was one fight. Look at that experience. Like, my goodness, that's over 4,000 in gold, over 3k on top of it. A ridiculous win for them, and honestly, that shouldn't have been happening. Arcanys, when you use your Ravage, you want to be winning the team fight, but we're well on our way towards a sub 15 minute Power Treads as well as Battle Fury for the AM. He's going to backdoor tier 1 to boot. And that's going to be it for a QO, pretty much. Yeah, there you go. It's going to be completed inside the base at 1345. Meepo has his Ags, and that's kind of nice for the Arcanist side, but without a blink on this Meepo, it's going to be a lot harder for him to actually find those jumps, unless he has the Tidehunter Ravage, which is still on cooldown for 70 seconds. MVP. At the drop of a hat, this game can change, and Meepo, just based on how the hero works, can snowball the enemy team incredibly fast. Magic Missile in the boombox as well as a Zeus ultimate. My goodness, Fired Butterflies. It's about to be fried as well, especially with the swap coming out from Heen. Thunderbolt again. They'll jump forward with the Tidehunter, trying to focus down Reason with the Wraith King, but he just can't find him. Fogged around the sidelines. He's going to die. Dual Breath as well as a couple more Thunderbolts, and still doesn't have his ultimate off of cooldown. Heen is currently fighting up against Bach. It's a fight that he can't win directly, but now with the spin coming out from Reason, it's going to be a triple kill for March. Now they found Heinrich. He's going to poof in with all of the Meepos, dropping QO low, but now with the Mana Void, that's going to be the Meepo losing his life as well, and Anti-Mage able to squeak away. My goodness. This game, it was looking good for Arcanys. They were primed to take some really good fights. But just like that, 2 engagements later, it's a huge swing. Again, in the favor of MVP, another 5-man wipe. All they lost was the Vengeful Spirit this time around, and beforehand, all they lost was the Jug, and keep in mind, that's a support Juggernaut. Doesn't really matter that he dies. It looks like he's going for a Force Staff, which is a decent item to have on Juggernaut. But he's there for the Healing Ward and spin, nothing else. And that's perfectly acceptable. MVP, looking so good. Scratch that. He actually went for the Staff of Wizardry into an Agnum Scepter. Also legit, I suppose. Although you're pretty used to seeing Point Booster Ogre Club first. Now, Arcanys, they have their Black Hole and their Ravage online. They really need to start turning things around with these ultimate cooldowns. There's not really much else to talk about. They need to make these work. And if they don't, they're going to be in a whole heap of trouble. This is a really crucial time for them. If they take another fight of the same caliber of those last 2 fights, they're going to be absolutely hosed. But with a Black Hole mech as well as with a Blinking Ravage, it shouldn't be the case. They still need to be careful. I don't know. Right now, the Meepo is farming up. His woods are currently being farmed by the Tidehunter and are actually very well warded by MVP. If you take a look at their map vision over on the Radiant side, they actually see literally everything, which is really dangerous if your name's Meepo. They're currently stealing a couple of stacks, they'll deward a sentry, and Anti-Mage is going to be just fine farming up inside the enemy woods, but then again, so is Heinrich. He has one of his little Meepo-lings over inside the enemy woods farming up a medium camp. This game has slowed down a little bit since the tier 1 towers have fallen on both sides, with the exception being that bottom tier 1, as I've mentioned earlier. But that's really the easiest thing for both of these teams to do. MVP right now are respecting the fact that they have a lot of big ultimates on the enemy side and will instead go for Roshan since they see Arcanys on most of the map, especially inside the woods. It's being pinged out a little bit, but they might just be able to take it. With the medallion picked up, I presume, by the Venge, as well as the Wave of Terror, it's going to be a pretty secure one, and a double life now for QO. They drop a Zeus ultimate, they know exactly where everybody is, and Arcanys aren't in position to defend. Win on top of win for MVP. The Anti-Mage now is going to be working towards his next major item, and once we have that Manta Style up for QO, he's going to be an absolute wrecking crew just by himself. BKB afterwards is going to be mandatory up against Meepo, but they found Boombox in mid with the magic missile as well as inside the macro power. Spin as well, not much of a chance that you're surviving that. As the lowly Enigma, not the greatest of HP pools. There is a completed Vlad's up on the anti-mage, and he's hardly ever going to need to go back to base, even though he is incredibly low right now. Even if somebody kills him, that's just going to be the Aegis, although you probably don't want to be giving that one up. He should be able to blink out the second time around, unless Meepo has an immaculate net, which is definitely a possibility. Arcanys put some pressure onto the tier 2 tower with the healing ward and the liquid fire again. It doesn't look like Arcanys really wants to contest this wholeheartedly. Meepo is split pushing top and bottom at the same time because he is a Meepo and he can't do that. They'll TP back. This tier 2 tower is dropping low. Now in deny range, it looks like MVP might just have to concede the denial, and it looks like they will do so. A couple of arc lightnings fly through. Jakiro looks for the last hit, but not going to find it. But even so, it's map control falling around Arcanys that they desperately need. Right now, MVP have better vision and control over the enemy jungle than Arcanys do.
Take that as tribute.
As far as their farm is concerned, on her supporting cast, Aghanim Scepter is still getting pretty close for reason. He's 800 gold off of that one. Boots of Travel now picked up by the Meepo. I quite like this build from him, especially based on how the game is going. MVP are looking to 5-man barrel down those lanes. And Anti-Mage, although he's a pretty darn scary hero, he's not scary enough to take out the Meepo solo. So he is going to be able to split push very effectively with this. Akin to the Tinker. That is 4 Boots of Travel that he can actually use to get around the map, and then poof, an incredibly fast split pusher, an incredibly good one at that. So we'll have to see if he's going to be able to utilize that effectively. But it's also going to delay his Blink Dagger and ability to actually initiate the fights. They are very much relying on their Tidehunter to pull them back into this game. MVP with just better control all around. Heinrich was looking to farm that camp. For some reason, the creeps actually aggroed in there, so those poofs actually didn't do any damage. So it's going to slow down a little bit, but worst case scenario, it takes Meepo 3 seconds to get out to safety with the Boots of Travel. Just Boots of Travel 1 back in, wait half a second, and then poof all of them out. 1.5 seconds, I should say. Yeah, game has slowed down. But honestly, I think that favors MVP, and they're looking to get themselves out of this slump anyway with their 4 more aggressive heroes, just letting the Anti-Mage farm in the meantime. There's no reason to really get him out of this. Anti-Mage is farming up like a madman. Although not as fast as the Meepo, it's pretty darn close. They look up towards top, but there's nobody to be found. Currently, Arcanys are bundled up on their side of the map, and they're probably just going to transition this into a tier 2 tower push. Still 2 minutes left on the Aegis, on the Anti-Mage, so there's no real reason to not go for this. Even if Kyo dies, that's exactly what the Aegis is there for, to go for these riskier plays, but even then, it's not too risky, especially if they catch out somebody like Heinrich. If they can find out this Meepo, it could be huge. But either way, Vengeful Spirit going to be leading the charge, maybe bumping into a handful of enemy heroes. Poofs from Heinrich is going to drop himself up towards top, but the Anti-Mage is pursuing. They have March as well. They're going to Yule Scepter and bolt up in the air into the Ice Path down onto the ground. They're just bursting him down too quickly. He drops in a heartbeat. My goodness, that Meepo did not stand a chance. Box in a decent position for a Ravage, but his blink is being cancelled. They look for the Thunderbolt. Kyo jumps in the backlines. He might lose his Aegis here, but that's probably exactly what he wants. Dropping down Fried Butterfly's low, gets off the Mana Void, and he's still not falling. Fried Butterflies is fried. Now Wraithfire Blast flying over to March. March dropping low. He will be swapped out to safety. Even though the Wraithfire Blast drops him down to 40 HP. Mighty Saber, not enough mana to get off his ultimate. Kyo is still surviving. My goodness, just playing with the enemy team. Omni slash into the backlines. Obliterates the Tidehunter. Again, nothing they can do. Kyo inside that healing ward has another blink off of cooldown. Going to be jumping to the low ground. Boombox inside the Ice Path, and MVP are just running circles around Arcanys right now. Tier 2 tower is going to be their prize, and they didn't even use the Aegis on Kyo. It would have been absolutely suicidal and ridiculous if he went for that without the Aegis, but he could have gotten away with it. And that's the scary thing. Arcanys, they didn't and weren't able to use their ultimates at all. Like, Tidehunter, his positioning for the Ravage was okay, but the, oh my goodness, is it called Static Field? Okay, I'm not completely crazy. The Static Field was canceling his Blink Dagger, and he wasn't able to jump in, and he was, in the end, too low. Zeus has gone unanswered. There's no pipe on Arcanys, there's no BKB, and Meepo, even though he has that high base magic resist, if you don't have a pipe, he just melts to Zeus. Jump in for the Ravage. Box connected onto 3. Kyo's Aegis is still there, however, and swap, as well as the spin's going to keep him alive. Kyo loses his Aegis. Now Black Hole canceled by the Ice Path. Boombox completely whiffs, not going to land on anything. However, he dropping low, looking for the Zeus ultimate, the Mana Void onto the Enigma. Kyo is dropping to the Meepos and is going to fall, but the Wraith King also going to lose his Reincarnation nets galore onto March, as well as an Ignite, but the healing ward's there. Tidehunter is going to blink in, trying to kill that one off as fast as he can, but he's into the Zeus now, and that's going to be the end of Tidehunter's life. Magic Missile flying on a fried butterfly as his Mighty Saber trying to do as best he can, and might be able to drop down Heen with a little bit of help from the Ogre Magi. It is going to be the end of his life. Reason dropping low. Mighty Saber has no Ray Fire Blast. It is going to connect. There is no spin on the Juggernaut right now, but Force Staffs are going to prove crucial for them. It's a 2-for-2 trade and high ground defense by Arcanys, but the fights leading up to that were so heavily in the favor of MVP. It's really hard to call that a win, but I suppose it is. Slight experience win and slight gold win for their team. Meepo's not really collecting that big, but he is going to be well on his way towards a Blink Dagger soon. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Solo casting does get onto the throat a little bit. Especially this early in the morning. Reason Invid is top. He's looking for an Omni Slash. He's isolated Heinrich. I don't think that's going to be enough damage, even if he gets the full Omni Slash. It is Aghanimed up. I think it would be close, but not close enough. Wraith King, on the other hand, he's going to get Omni down. And even with the Blade Mail, doesn't actually bother the Juggernaut. That's going to be an easy kill. Yeah, Meepo just had a little too much HP. Blink TP, or rather, Spin TP, is going to keep the Juggernaut safe, even though Heinrich was boots traveling in. Just a little too late on the trigger, and even if he was there, Juggernaut probably would have been just fine. The physical damage from Meepo is good, but not as good as the damage from Poof and Geostrike. Anti-Mage now completing up that Mantis style is going to be doing quite a lot of work inside these teamfights. If he wasn't already, Kyo's been having a pretty darn good game. Not farming as fast as the Meepo, but he hasn't died as much as the Meepo. And he's gotten more kills than the Meepo, so that's why Kyo is currently sitting on top of it. Just being able to abuse the map very effectively. And Arcanys right now, they rely entirely on Heinrich, and, well, as I say that, my goodness, Vengeful Spirit's going to die inside the jungle. Rip Venge. Not much you can do there, especially if you don't have anybody to swap to, and if you swap anybody, they're going to die, so probably not even worth it to begin with. And also MVP, getting up a gem for themselves is going to seize map control away from Arcanys. Right now, the game plan for Arcanys is to wait for the Black Hole cooldown and the Ravage cooldown, and hope for the best. They need Heinrich to be an absolute beast in the next team fight. With Blink Dagger, as well as Aghanim Scepter, he definitely can be. But is it going to be enough? I think only time will tell. MVP, they don't have their BKB on the Anti-Mage, so he is killable, as we saw in that last engagement, even after the Aegis was procced. So we'll just have to see. Yeah. Hopefully I'll be joined by somebody else for Game 2. Gush is going to fly the way of the Anti-Mage, but not much else after that. We've kind of stalled out, and that's not to be unexpected, but, I mean, if you just look, that cluster of wins for MVP on either metric, it really does show inside the graphs, 7,500 and 5,000 in their favor. Roshan's going to respawn in 2.5 minutes. Let's see what that respawn timer, it's actually a pretty long one. I think that favors Arcanys, but if they win this next fight convincingly, maybe it doesn't even do that. Smoke is going to be procced on the March, but just the psychological pressure of knowing that there's some smoked heroes that you may or may not be able to see. Is pretty significant. I like that they use the smoke for the high ground push, even if it's not actually going to be that impactful. Uphill miss on the Jakiro is going to mean that Liquefire doesn't actually tag that tower, which is unfortunate. They're losing a mid-tier 2 in the meantime as Meepo is able to knock that one down. MVP have committed everybody towards this mid lane, but if they were able to catch out, that Meepo could have been huge. Blade Mail as well as Ray Fire Blast thrown out by the Wraith King. But Yule Scepter is going to disjoint that, and for now it's a slow and steady push, but I think more than anything this is favoring Arcanys since they can afford to drop Meepo every which way. They have 2 Meepos down towards bot, Meepo in mid, Meepo in the jungle, Meepo in the base. Scratch that, no Meepo in the base, but Boots of Travel in the Meepos, so you can get into the base quickly. They'll force that forward, looking for the Ravage opportunity. It's just going to be Gus and Reason. Sorry about that camera work there. Was pretty abysmal. Ice Path is going to help the retreat of the Juggernaut, and it looks like he's going to be able to run out to safety, as they don't want to commit anything further. They are going to ping out for Ev, but also very fast with the Yule Scepter, but they're going to commit the Ravage. Zeus flies through, a little bit too late to cancel a Blink Dagger on block. Ice Path lands on the 3, and even if they get these kills, I'm not sure if that's really worth it. The Jakiro is without buyback, so maybe that is, but it's Ravage for just 1 kill, even though it connected onto 2, and they have to commit quite a bit for that. Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to be able to do enough with this kill. Juggernaut forced to TP out. He does have a spin, doesn't use it. Doesn't matter either, as he's able to make it back towards base. I think the best they can hope for is a tier 2 tower up towards top. Pushing power from Meepo definitely is pretty strong, but then you have to look at bottom. Kyo is currently split pushing that out as fast as he can, and he can do a pretty good job of that. He has the Mantis style in this tier 3 tower. It's going to be dropped low. Heinrich blinking in, however, with the net. Kyo can't blink out, and he's screwed. He gets the Mana Void off, but my goodness, Anti-Mage didn't expect that. Where did Meepo actually Boots of Travel to? I think it was over to, like, this hut. Either way, really well played by the Meepo, and Anti-Mage just wasn't expecting it. Meepo can be everywhere and nowhere at the same time, so you do have to respect that, I suppose. Honestly, I didn't think he'd be punished for that. Interesting choice by the Meepo, actually. I'm going to go for a pretty late drums. I do like that he's building up these stats, and right now Arcanys, they need to fight. They have the ultimate orb as well as drums on Meepo. He's incredibly strong, as we've already seen. BKB is mandatory for anti-mage. He really, really, really needs it, so that doesn't happen. Worst case scenario, he's forced to BKB TP out of there, but even so, 121 damage on each of these Meeps. Multiply that by 5. That's a lot of physical damage coming through, and a slow that goes through BKB, although the Geostrike's not going to be doing damage. It's still quite significant. Bach, working towards his refresher now as Arcanys find themselves a new lease on life as anti-mage gives his life freely in the bottom lane. Yeah. Really nothing super interesting happening on the map except for Heinrich. I could watch Meepo all day and just watch his farming patterns. I quite like playing Meepo myself, even though I'm a 3k scrub. It doesn't really matter. Because he's just a barrel of fun. He's a stressful barrel of fun, don't get me wrong. Just having to control so many units, but you feel like a baller if you ever come out to team fight on top. Right now, the Roshan is going to respawn up for MVP, and with the minus armor as well as the liquefier slowing down Roshan's attack speed, we've already seen that they've been able to take it very easily, and even if they needed it, they have a healing ward, but with the Vlads on QO, it doesn't actually matter. That's going to be another Aegis towards the anti-mage, and a second chance to take some fights in their terms. They're going to mop up a Necro book that was, I believe, picked up by the, excuse me, Heinrich. He's going in onto QO. Why is he doing it? He has the Aegis and he doesn't even drop low. Ravage on the sidelines connects onto a bunch, but Forev is going to be the only one to fall. Buyback from the Meepo. Why are they taking this engagement? Boombox. No mana, can't get off the black hole. Now Fried Butterfly is also completely dry. QO is completely going to town. Heinrich on the sidelines. Haystern is going to keep March safe. The net from long range isn't going to connect onto him as Wraith King fighting between too many enemy heroes can't actually do anything. They're trying to drain his mana before he gets off his ultimate, and they're going to be able to do so. He has stick charges and Tread Switch. It's not going to be enough. That last attack draining just enough. All they get is a hero, and they force to buy back on the Meepo. They might actually lose Meepo here too. The Omni Slash isn't available, but Heinrich, he needs to boot to travel out with one of his Meepos. Now he poofs over the sidelines, poof to travel, but now with the poofs on cooldown, he can't get this Meepo out. Heinrich, he's in a whole heap of trouble. There's not anything he can do. He's spun down, currently in the blender that is Juggernaut, and that's going to be a dieback on your Meepo. I don't know why Arcanys took that fight. Roshan fell. They do have good ultimates to fight inside the Roshan pit, don't get me wrong. Ravage and Black Hole shine in those close quarters, but they didn't actually connect on much of anything. Anti-Mage wasn't even dropped low. Like, Meepo was trying to focus him down, but Meepo, although he can go for a solo pickoff on the QO, when he has the backup coming out from the Venge, the Zeus, the damage from MVP is immense, and right now Arcanys, they're on the back lines. If this was any other hero, I think they lose the game right now. But Meepo does have a reduced cooldown respawn timer. At level 3, it's quite significant. Q going to be fire blasted up and jumped onto. They do have a gush. Swap back onto the Titan Driver. Bach is obliterated. Omni Slash goes up to the high ground. And now blink forward by QO, draining the mana of Mighty Savior. QO might lose his life here, and it looks like the Aegis is going to be down the tubes. Negative Urn Charge, he blinks away, but is going to lose the Aegis, but at a safe distance from the enemy team. Eul Scepter onto the Enigma. They have an Ice Path to follow through. Now Boombox in a whole heap of trouble as he burns in the Macro Power. Wraith King going to lose his ultimate. This time it actually is able to proc off, but now QO, with a vengeance and some backup to boot, is probably going to be able to take him down. QO dropping low, but BKB hasn't even been needed to be pressed by QO. He can still stick around even though he's low and has some healing ward backup and Urn too. MVP have blown this game wide open. It's actually just a fiscal cliff down. Not much else you can talk about. Heinrich, that last fight was backbreaking. The Meepo is looking like he might have been able to come back in this game after the pickoff on the AM, but Arcanys, their team is just so volatile, and that is the risk you run whenever you pick a Meepo. He is a hero that, although he can snowball completely out of control and command the game, if he doesn't get off to a snowbally start, he dies just way too quickly. Anti-Mage going up towards top, netted down. He does have the BKB, and he's probably going to be forced to pop it here, but with swap, Ravage connects onto Heen. Where is the Anti-Mage throughout all this? He's outside of the base. BKB pop, going to drop the Mana Void. The Black Hole's going to be cancelled by Eul's. Q's still dropping low, but Meepo even faster. That's Meepo down. Note the Omni Slash, he kills off too. Double kill for Reason. Blink forward onto the Tide Hunter, and that's going to be GG, and a good game it was. QO dropping low to the tower will be able to blink out. His box going to lose his life before the Ancient explodes, and now Mighty Savior wants a piece of that too, but won't die before the Ancient actually bites the dust. Thanks for watching. I've been HeflaTV here on HeflaTV 2, and I've been giving you a little bit of coverage of the I-League number 2 Southeast Asian qualifiers. I've been here on HeflaTV, and if you like the casting, you follow us on HeflaTV at Twitter, Facebook, and here on Twitch. Hopefully I'll be joined by a co-caster for game number 2, but that's coming up shortly, so don't go anywhere. We'll have more Dota. really, really soon.